Green Bay Packers, Philadelphia Eagles, Washington Commanders, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Two teams are going to have their seasons ended by the same teams they started the year against. Yes, we have two Week 1 rematches on Sunday. Welcome to the NFC Wildcard Breakdowns for the Sunday games. If you've never been here before, welcome. My name is Max. I make these videos for all of the biggest NFL games as well as some college basketball and NBA stuff. So if you're not part of the family already, make sure you subscribe, make sure you join it. And if you have been here before, make sure you leave a like on this video. If you don't know what we're going to talk about, we're going to break down the key information regarding coverage data, run scheme information, and overall logistical metrics for this game. Before we get into it, though, I want to make sure you guys know where you can get all of my picks and join my bracket pool if you want to make your own picks for the NFL playoff games. I'll share that with you really quick. All of this stuff is in the description. Now, if you want my picks, you have to be following me on Instagram. That is the best place to follow. If you guys aren't doing that already, you're missing out big time. Again, link is below, or you can search it up. Same handle as it is on here. Same with X. Everything that happens quick up to the minute is on X. You got to be following on there if you are not already. Now, if you want some bonus cash to make your picks with on these games, Sleeper, Underdog, and Better Picks are all going to give you bonus cash. They're going to give you a free half-yard special on each as well. Sleeper's giving you a free half-yard pick as well as 11 free additional entries if you join with code LEADS. That's the only way you can get them. Underdog, very similar thing. Deposit bonus up to $1,000 if you join with code LEADS. And Better Picks, $200 deposit match if you join with code LEADS, as well as a free half completion pick. If you guys want to track my picks, Pickett is the place to do that. But at the very top, the 2025 NFL playoff bracket pool, you got to be following on Instagram and X to enter. But the winner of that pool will get a jersey of their choice. Doesn't matter who it is, doesn't matter what team it is, but the winner, completely free entry, will get a jersey of their choice, courtesy of me. If you guys want to join that, again, make sure you're following on Instagram and X. If you're not and you win, you won't get the jersey. Make sure you do that. But without further ado, let's break down these games. Packers, Eagles, this is the most important game. If you guys have been here for a while, you know the Eagles were my Super Bowl pick back in August. I'm riding with them till the end. I don't love them, but I'm riding with them till the end. Now, in terms of overall data outliers for this game, there is some very important stuff that we need to talk about. You look at the Packers defense, right? Third most running back receptions given up, third most running back receiving yards given up, as well as the 10th most tight end receptions and yards. In terms of the last 5 games, though, the 7th most pass attempts given up and the most running back receptions. So running back receptions are the big thing we got to pay attention to here, especially as it relates to Saquon Barkley. As you can see, the Packers also run the 2nd most zone coverage in the NFL. It's 50-50 in terms of middle field open and middle field close, whether that's cover 2, 4, 6, or cover 3, whatever it may be. The Eagles versus zone, very interesting trends here. There isn't really anybody who truly sticks out, but in terms of target percentage, a guy who really hasn't played as much as other pass catchers this year is Dallas Goedert, and I want to talk about him. He is the highest targeted in terms of overall percentage Philadelphia Eagle on the roster. Now, A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith are also getting targeted at high rates. The next two are running backs. In terms of overall targets, it's Smith, A.J. Brown, and Goedert, but Goedert has played 3 less games than these guys. And when you look at the targets per game, receptions per game, it is significantly closer. There really isn't too much, honestly, that separates Goedert, A.J. Brown, and Devontae Smith in terms of targets. And then yards per out run, obviously A.J. Brown is that explosive. But Dallas Goedert is still top 3 in yards per route run on the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, if you remember correctly, the Green Bay Packers have been without Jaire Alexander since week 12. So that's about 2 months without Jaire Alexander. Since then, their zone rate and the amount of cover 2 they play has dramatically increased. They're playing 87% zone. That's almost unheard of. And 32% cover 3. It's pretty cover 2, excuse me. It's pretty ridiculous. What that means is they're going to sit back, 2 high shell, play soft zone. But they're very good against the run. And that's the other thing we got to talk about here. In terms of overall rush defense, this Green Bay Packers team is pretty good. They're pretty good. They stop up the run. They don't let teams run on them much. But the overall reality of the Green Bay Packers run defense is they are going to sit back in 2 high shells. And when you look at the overall run metrics, the 3rd fewest yards per carry, like they can stop the run, but tied 13th highest explosive run percentage. And obviously Saquon Barkley, that Philadelphia Eagles team, is going to be very explosive in terms of what they offer on the ground. But this is very important. They're worse in the man gap scheme runs. And the Eagles are the 2nd best man gap team in the NFL. Now, in terms of attempt percentage, the Eagles run the ball so much that you're going to see a ton of zone and a ton of man gaps, so it's not super important. But when you get those man gaps, Saquon Barkley is going to break a big one. He's going to bust a big one through. Like, he even though he may not have the overall yardage projection, his longest rush is something I'm absolutely going to be looking at. Again, all that stuff is going to be on X and on Instagram. So if you're not following, make sure you do. All that's in the description. He is going to break a big one. That's the thing here. And you look at the target rates in terms of passing, there's no marriage that says, okay, Green Bay is giving up the 8th highest slot target rate. Oh, Eagles got to be throwing in the slot at the highest rate. No, they're not. There's really no marriage here that we like. So in terms of pass catchers, if you want to water something down, probably Dallas Goedert, probably A.J. Brown. But the reality is, I think it has to be a Saquon game, whether it's scrimmage yards or longest rush, because he's going to have some type of role in the pass game. I really like what Saquon offers in terms of his overall projections. We'll look at the previous matchup data here in a minute, but we do have to talk about the Eagles defense. Now, they're extremely good against the run, and there are almost no data outliers with these guys. That's the issue here. The 11th most wide receiver receptions is what I really want to talk about, because when you look at where the Eagles are getting targeted, it's in the slot at the 7th highest rate. If you remember correctly, Christian Watson is now out for the remainder of the year and potentially next year with a torn ACL. When you look at what happened week 1 with the Green Bay Packers pass offense, there was somebody who really stuck out, and it was the guy in the slot, right? You look at week 1, Jaden Reed, 4 catches, 138 yards, and a touchdown. Now, I don't blame you for not wanting to get on Jaden Reed. It's a scary thing, and he's probably screwed a lot of us in terms of the projections and the picks. But the reality is, getting targeted in the slot at a really high rate, that's where the Packers are throwing the football, and somebody has to step up more now with Christian Watson out. Whether that's Romeo Doubs, Bo Melton, Dontavian Wicks, whoever it may be, right? They have to step up. Now, I'm not telling you to get on Jaden Reed longest yards. Don't do that. Longest reception, though, chunk play. Go ahead, be my guest, because you look at what happened last game. It was 30-plus yards per catch against these guys. You only have 4 catches to beat 138 yards. Big explosive plays is what I'm really looking at. But there's also something I want to talk about here. The Eagles are worst against zone. Actually, the 15th highest yards per carry given up against zone. So technically, the Philadelphia Eagles are below average in terms of how they produce against zone runs. But the Packers are the 3rd best zone team in the NFL, and the Eagles are giving up a lot of explosive runs, the 11th highest rate in the league, and the Packers have the 8th highest explosive run rate in the league. Now, I'm not sitting here and telling you Josh Jacobs is going to have a crazy game, but could he break a big one? Absolutely. I think when you look at the longest rush projections for Saquon and Josh Jacobs, if you want to put them together, I don't hate that at all. I think it's going to be a moderately close game, a back-and-forth game. Obviously, I'm rocking with the Eagles here, but it's going to be a back-and-forth game, and I think red zone production is going to be what decides this game. When you look at the overall scoring percentages and red zone defense production, you can see Philadelphia tied for 5th in terms of their red zone defense. And you go down a little bit, Green Bay, 20th in the NFL in terms of red zone defense. Now, red zone offense, you go look at it. They're both solid, right? You got Philly. Where'd they go here? We just missed Philly. Where'd they go? There we go. 13th, Green Bay 10th. So they're right around each other. Both red zone offenses can get it done, but Green Bay's red zone defense is a little bit worse. The only thing I want to talk about more now is the previous matchups between these guys, because you can look at this. Jordan Love obviously got hurt in this game, but he threw the ball 34 times. I think it's going to be a pass fest there. You look at Josh Jacobs, 16 for 84 in this game. He broke a big one in the second half, if you remember that. Wide receivers, Jaden Reed had a big game. Romeo Doubs led the team in targets, though. And then tight end production overall, Tucker Kraft, 2 for 37. Luke Musgrave, 2 targets, no catches. On the other end, the Philadelphia Eagles offense, you remember the game that Saquon had. And that's really what I'm going to write home about. Jalen Hurts also threw the ball 34 times, 2 bad picks, 2 touchdowns, but 13 carries. You can see that. Saquon Barkley, 24 for 109, 2 touchdowns, and he still had 20-plus yards receiving, that big receiving touchdown as well. When you look at the pass catches for the Philadelphia Eagles, A.J. Brown had a huge touchdown, I believe, in the first half, a big, long touchdown, but Devontae Smith out-caught him in terms of overall receptions and at 84 yards still. Tight end production, though. Dallas Goedert, 4 for 31. Again, he's coming back from an injury, played his first game last week against the Giants. Really wasn't anything crazy, but he was targeted a lot. And obviously that was Tanner McKee at quarterback and not Jalen Hurts. So that's a very different thing, especially not having your top 3 pass catchers or top 3 offensive options out there. But I do think there's a world where Dallas Goedert has a pretty big receiving game in terms of things I would take straight in this game. Obviously, that will be on Instagram and X officially, so make sure you're following him in the description if you're not already. But I think the longest rush projections for both running backs are pretty solid. But truthfully, I like Dallas Goedert catches, not yards, because Green Bay is going to sit back. They're going to let you check the football down in the pass situations. I think Goddard's going to improve and continue to produce there. But this is going to be a moderately close game that I trust the Eagles to get the job done at home in. It's going to be a good one. I'm not backing down from my Eagles prediction at the beginning of the year. But let's talk about the second game. Before we do, though, I do want to remind you guys, I have AFC breakdowns. They're all in the description as well. Obviously, depending on when you're seeing this, some may have happened, some may not be happening. This is coming out Friday afternoon. The first game is Saturday at 4:30 p.m. Eastern. But we have breakdowns for all the AFC games in the descriptions, and a bunch of picks and predictions for the AFC games are already on Instagram and X. So again, go check it out. Go follow over there. You don't want to miss that stuff. And truthfully, that's where a lot of that stuff happens really quick. So you want to get on it. Let's talk about the second game here, though. Another matchup that happened week one. Another matchup that really didn't matter and looked wildly different week one. The Commanders and the Buccaneers. Now, this is a game I look at and I go back and forth on because, well, I do think the Washington Commanders have some type of advantage offensively. I think through the air, Jaden Daniels is going to have a good game. I trust Baker at home in the playoffs. I trust Baker at home. We saw what they did last year to a team, the Philadelphia Eagles, that had glaring weaknesses defensively. They completely rolled through them. And I think the Commanders' weaknesses defensively are less glaring, but they are there, especially when you look at it. When you look at this Commanders' defense, right? 10th most rush yards, or 4th most rush yards per game, and 10th most rush attempts per game all year long. And the last 5 games, still bottom 10 in both of them. When they play defense and coverage, they play man. They man up. Now, again, this looks very different than week one. Obviously, the Buccaneers do not have Chris Godwin, but more importantly, the Commanders do have Marshawn Lattimore. That's a very important thing here. You get the Mike Evans, Marshawn Lattimore matchup. They're going to line up across the board. Lattimore is going to follow Mike Evans. When you look at target percentage, targets, receptions, yards per out run, Mike Evans is the man. But target percentage, targets, receptions, yards per out run, you can see number 2 in most of them, number 3 in percentage is Jalen McMillan. And I don't know if the Commanders can match up across from Jalen McMillan and continue to play one-on-one. I'm going to lean into him in some capacity, in some way. But what I really want to talk about is the run scheme metrics here, because they are giving up the 5th most yards per carry to opposing running backs. And you think about this Buccaneers offense, you think prolific through the air. They are wildly efficient on the ground. Bucky Irving's running the football really well. Offensively in total, 3rd most yards per carry, and deeper, the Commanders allow the most man gap yards per carry. Now, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers run more man gap scheme runs than zone runs, so that's their primary form of running the football, but have the most yards per carry in those man gap scheme runs. Commanders are tied for 15th in explosive run percentage given up. The Buccaneers are the 6th highest explosive run team in the NFL. So I go look at Bucky Irving. I'll pull up his projection for you really quick. But I look at Bucky Irving, I think about Bucky Irving, and that is exactly who I want to get on. And that's exactly who I want to get on. His projection's a little high right now. It's 86 yards. But you go look at what happened in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of the last 7 games he's hit it. And one of the games was that Vegas game where he came in hurt, wasn't going to play, all that stuff. Bucky Irving is running the football really well, and this is the best matchup for him. This is going to be a high-scoring game. It's going to be a close game. Maybe he gets in the end zone. Maybe he doesn't. But in terms of overall rush yards, it's going to be there for Bucky Irving. I want to pull up some past games for him as well. He is playing really, really good football, and he's taking over the backfield. That's the most important thing. Like Sean Tucker and Rachaad White will get occasional touches, but you look at Bucky Irving. There you go, 86 plus against the Giants, 86 plus against the Panthers. Another very similar matchup where he exploded. Again, hurt in that Raiders game. Chargers, good run defense, played really well. Dallas, 16 for 68, so nothing super crazy there, but they very clearly saw an advantage through the air, and they threw it. Again, 100 plus against the bad run defense in Carolina, 89 against the bad run defense in New Orleans. But look at the carries, guys. 19, 20, 16, 15, obviously hurt. 25, 12, 13. The last time he got single-digit carries was 2+ months ago. He's going to get double-digit carries. They're going to lean into him offensively. And when they do, the matchup actually, I don't know if it gets better. I don't know if it gets better than this one against the Commanders. Bucky Irving is the guy I am staring at. Although I do think Jalen McMillan is absolutely worth looking at in terms of the Buccaneers' pass offense. Cade Otton, questionable up in the air, but not very good against man coverage. And if the Commanders are going to line up across from you, play man coverage, Cade Otton's not going to be the first, second, or maybe even third guy Baker Mayfield's going to look at most of the time. So we get away from Cade Otton. Do like him if he plays as a player, but not in terms of the receiving projections. Let's talk Commanders offense versus Bucs defense now, though. You look at this. Tampa Bay is going to play the most zone in the NFL. They're going to sit back. They're going to make you check the ball down, throw the ball quick. To me, that says Austin Eckler before I even look at anything, but they're still giving up the second most pass attempts, the third most pass yards, third most wide receiver receptions, seventh most wide receiver yards, fifth most tight end yards, fifth most tight end receptions, second most tight end yards. So they're basically giving up pass production to everywhere but the running back position. Do we lean into Austin Eckler that much? Let's talk about it. Ninth most pass attempts last 5 games. In terms of target percentage against zone, Olamide Zaccheaus leads the team. Yes, Olamide Zaccheaus. Obviously, McLaurin has the most targets and receptions and yards per out run, but Zaccheaus is number 2 there. He's number 3 in targets and receptions. And in terms of where the Commanders throw the football, it's out wide in the slot. They don't throw to the tight end position. They don't throw to the backfield, at least comparatively. It's out wide in the slot in terms of the frequency of where they throw the football. Obviously, Zaccheaus is going to run a lot of routes from outside, but he also participates in the slot. We saw that 2 games ago against the Atlanta Falcons. Huge game for him there. Olamide Zaccheaus is the guy I am really looking at. When you look at his projection, it's a little low. Like, I'm actually surprised that he is only projected 35 receiving yards and 4 catches. Now, he's hit 4 catches in 2 of the last 3 games, and 2 of the last 3 games he's been playing 49% plus snaps. Now, it's interesting because you look at the last 4 games with Olamide Zaccheaus, he's had 3 for 36, 5 for 70, 8 for 85, but he's still been explosive in doing so. Like, 2 catches for 51 yards last week. And when you play a zone team, you probably want to lean into the receptions before you lean into the yards, but he's had 35 plus in 3 of the last 4 and only 4 catches in 2 of the last 4. So if you want to go proof in the pudding with Zaccheaus, it's the yards. I think you lean into zone, especially because the Buccaneers are pretty good against the run. We'll talk a little bit about deeper data here in a second, but they're pretty good against the run. I think your safest bet in terms of Commanders players is through the air and in the pass game. But I look at McLaurin. Like right now, 5 catches is too low. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of the last 6 games, he's had 5 plus catches. He has to be the mainstay here. He has to be a focal point in this offense. And you can look at past wide receivers against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers too. Past number 1s against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They continue to produce. That's the reality of it. They continue to produce where they're at. Obviously, the Saints, they're not going to have a true number 1 wide receiver, but Marquez Valdez-Scantling was still targeted 8 times. You got multi-5-catch games from Thielen and Leggett. You got a 7-catch game from CeeDee Lamb, 5 plus from Ladd McConkey, a 7 from Jacoby Myers, 8 from Adam Thielen here, 5, 6 from Robinson and Neighbors, 7 from Jawan Jennings, 8 from DeAndre Hopkins, and then they've been worse at the beginning of the year, but again, this is the Saints. 5 from Bub Means is when Chris Olave got hurt. Zay Flowers didn't have a big game, which kind of surprised me, but remember, he got hurt in that game as well. 12 catches from Drake London, 9 from Darnell Mooney, 7 from Sutton, even 6 from Lil Jordan Humphrey, 11 from Amon-Ra St. Brown, 5 from J-Mo. Like, they're allowing number 1s to produce against them, and I think in a game where, again, Commanders are going to have to throw the football, that's where the advantage is going to be. Terry McLaurin is going to get a considerable amount of targets there. Let's talk run game very briefly, though, because, again, holistically, the Bucs are pretty good. 23rd in yards per carry, right? But tied 15th for most explosive runs, and the Washington Commanders run the 3rd highest explosive runs in the NFL, 3rd highest percentage. They're worse against man gap in terms of how often they see it. It's pretty balanced, but the Commanders are the 8th best man gap team in the NFL. So you lean into that. I want to take a look at quarterback rush yards for a second here, though, because you can look. Week 1, Jaden Daniels, the pass matchup at 88. Bo Nix, 47. Jalen Hurts, 20. Kirk Cousins is not going to move in the pocket. Neither is Jared Goff. Rattler with 27. Lamar with 52. Kirk, 16 there. Mahomes did not have a big running game, which interests me. But Purdy, 17. DeVito, 32. Bryce Young, 17. Nothing really there. They've been really good against quarterbacks on the ground lately. But, like, Herbert on a bum ankle, Cooper Rush, Bryce Young maybe, Aiden O'Connell, Desmond Ridder. Like, they haven't truly played an elite rushing threat as of late. And I think Jaden Daniels' legs are going to have to play a huge part in this game. Huge part in this game. He's projected 50 rush yards. He's hit that in 4 of his last 6. But I also look at his pass touchdowns. He is projected 2 pass touchdowns. He's hit that in 5 of his last 6. And I think in a game where Tampa Bay is going to have to stop up the run, they're going to throw the football a bunch, you could see multiple touchdowns from Jaden Daniels. I think I want to get on Jaden Daniels in some aspect, whether that's passing plus rushing yards or rushing yards overall. That will probably be watered down and put in our entry, which, again, Instagram and X. But that is all the information that you need to know for Commanders, Bucks, as well as Packers, Eagles. The Vikings-Rams breakdown will be out Sunday afternoon, so that'll be out on here. Again, obviously make sure you subscribe if you're not already so it pops up for you. You can turn on notifications so you see it as well, but that will be out Sunday afternoon. Again, in the description, all the social links as well as the AFC breakdowns. Very similar. All three of the AFC breakdowns are in the same video, so make sure you check that out if you haven't already. I appreciate you guys watching. Stay tuned for the next NFC breakdown, and then after that, we got divisional picks. See you guys next time. God bless.